Ordinary lives don't always end ordinarily. Sometimes the person next door, the student in the technical class, the Ivy League grad, you'd never think of violence from them. Yet in recent years we've seen shocking cases of people with little or no prior criminal record who suddenly commit deadly acts. Today, we'll tell the stories of 3 such cases, one in Utah, one in New York, one in Pennsylvania. And then we'll attempt to ask the hard question, what drives someone from a quiet life into lethal violence? Tyler Robinson and Charlie Kirk. Tyler Robinson is a 22-year-old Utah man. By most accounts, he had no prior arrest record. He was part of a middle-class family, studying in an electrical apprenticeship program at Dixie Technical College, after having also attended other institutions. Charlie Kirk was a well-known conservative activist and speaker, co-founder of Turning Point USA, who traveled the country speaking to college audiences. On September 10, 2025, Kirk was speaking at a campus event at Utah Valley University, UVU, in Orem, Utah, when he was shot and killed from a rooftop vantage point by the alleged assailant. According to the charging documents, Robinson had planned the attack for a bit over a week. Surveillance footage showed him arriving on campus in a gray Dodge Challenger, and investigators say he selected Kirk for his political expression. Bullet casings were found inscribed with phrases such as, "Hey fascist," "Catch," language that investigators say draws on gaming or meme culture. After the shooting, Robinson allegedly fled but was later apprehended after a relative contacted authorities. The state is seeking the death penalty. From his upbringing, Robinson grew up in a quiet Utah neighborhood with good academic performance, no criminal history, friends describing him as smart and introverted, joking with peers about systems being broken. He enrolled in a technical apprenticeship, not some extremist training program. He started engaging politically in recent years. A family member told investigators he had become more political in recent years, and had mentioned Kirk's upcoming campus visit. Psychological turning point. Here we see a young man who appears stable, functional, academically capable, yet something shifts. A growing political engagement, a target selected, an act committed. What might have happened internally? Perhaps a sense of moral outrage, he reportedly said of Kirk. "I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out." Maybe a merging of online gaming/meme culture, ideological frustration, perceived injustice, all combining until the threshold to violence is crossed. Key takeaways. No prior violence, no criminal record. A lurking ideological grievance, real or perceived. A planning phase culminating in a rooftop sniper shot. A merging of personal, political, and digital culture elements. This case raises the question, how did someone go from technical student to sniper? Luigi Mangione and Brian Thompson. Luigi Nicholas Mangione was born May 6, 1998, in Towson, Maryland, into a well-to-do family with real estate, country club, and media interests. He attended the Gilman School, an elite all-boys private school in Baltimore, from which he graduated as valedictorian in 2016. He went on to the University of Pennsylvania, earning a BSE in engineering and an MSE in computer and information science, cum laude, by 2020. He worked in tech roles, data engineering, gaming internship, and appeared outwardly on track. Brian Thompson was CEO of the healthcare company United Healthcare Group. On December 4, 2024, he was shot and killed in Midtown Manhattan in a targeted ambush outside a hotel. Authorities allege Mangione planned the attack with motives tied to anger at the health insurance industry. At the scene, investigators recovered a 3D printed pistol and suppressor, writings, fraudulent IDs, and bullet casings with cryptic messages. The federal prosecutors are seeking the death penalty, charging him with first-degree murder in furtherance of terrorism, among other counts. The killing, though, has sparked controversial responses. While many decry the act, some younger people critical of insurance companies express sympathetic or even celebratory messages. The background. Here is a man from privilege, academically high-performing, destined for success. But somewhere the narrative changed. Reports note Mangione's online posts expressed anger about parasitic health insurance companies, corporate greed, modern society. His physical health may also have played a role. Reports indicate severe back pain from childhood, social withdrawal. Mangione's case highlights several triggers. First, a strong ideological grievance. Healthcare industry is unjust. Second, personal struggle, pain, isolation. Third, the means and planning capability. 3. D-printing, tech skill, workshop mindset. Fourth, a sense of radical justification. I will take out the symbol of the system. It suggests that even someone with full credentials, financial support, and social status can descend into violent extremism if personal and ideological crises co-occur. Key takeaways: privileged background, high academic achievement, deep ideological frustration with system institution, technical capacity to plan and execute a deadly attack, combination of personal vulnerability plus radical belief equals lethal action. Thomas Matthew Crooks and Donald Trump. Thomas Matthew Crooks, born September 20, 2003, was a young man from Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, who graduated high school in 2022. He was described by his school counselor as quiet, intelligent, with no obvious red flags for violence or ideological extremism. On July 13, 2024, at a rally near Butler, Pennsylvania, President Donald Trump was speaking when Crooks ascended a rooftop with an AR-15 style rifle and fired 8 rounds, injuring Trump in the ear and killing one spectator. Crooks himself was immediately killed by a sniper team. Crooks had no criminal history, and according to his school counselor, was not bullied, quiet but fine, in his earlier years. His motive remains unclear. Investigators found among his searches images of Trump, Biden, the FBI director, bomb-making materials, and references to a prior school shooter. The Federal Bureau of Investigation (FBI) continues to analyze his devices. Crooks exemplifies a type of ordinary but isolated young adult. He had a small friend group, no obvious political organization, no prior violence. Yet he planned an assassination of a major political figure, the head of state. What changed? Possibly a mix of identity issues, grievance, fascination with violence, access to weapons, and ideological or conspiratorial obsession. Psychological turning point. Here the trigger is less clearly ideological in the public record, but nonetheless features a sudden crossing of boundaries, quiet teenager, premeditated shooting. We must consider factors like sense of invisibility, alienation, fascination with violent icons or narratives, political policy differences, simplification of self-worth into a grand act, access to weaponry, ideological chaos. The complexity is high, and motive remains murky. But the pattern echoes the previous 2 stories: absence of prior criminal behavior, fast transition into violence. Key takeaways: no prior violence or extremist affiliation, sudden escalation into high-profile political violence, possible mix of personal crisis plus ideological obsession plus weapon access, demonstrates that the pathway to killing can arise even in someone who appeared normal. Despite having no record of advanced firearms training, each of the 3 attackers demonstrated an unsettling level of accuracy. Investigators believe this precision came less from professional skill and more from obsessive preparation. Tyler Robinson, for instance, is said to have spent days scouting vantage points around the campus before positioning himself on a rooftop, calculating the distance and timing for a single lethal shot at Charlie Kirk. Similarly, Luigi Mangione reportedly practiced with his custom-built 3D printed weapon in isolation, studying ballistics and recoil patterns online. When the moment came, he fired once, calmly and deliberately, hitting Brian Thompson without a chaotic spray of bullets. And Thomas Crooks, the youngest of the 3, had spent hours watching shooter videos and researching weapon mechanics. From a rooftop near the rally, he too fired a single, precise round that struck former President Trump in the ear. In each case, the shooter's accuracy wasn't the product of military-grade training, but of fixation, long hours of online research, careful observation, and a chilling level of mental rehearsal. It's a reminder that determination and planning can sometimes substitute for formal training, with devastating results. Why might people with no criminal or violent history snap and turn into shooters or killers? Now that we have 3 illustrative cases, what can we infer, psychologically, about why individuals with no prior notable violence might commit sudden lethal acts? Here are several interlocking themes. 1. Gradual build of grievance and ideological conviction. In each case, the individual developed some form of deep-felt grievance. Robinson against Kirk's worldview, Mangione against the health insurance industry, crooks against unknown but perhaps political targets. Grievance alone doesn't equal violence, but when it becomes personalized and fixed, it can act as a tipping point. The person might feel, the system is corrupt. This man's symbol embodies hate. I must act. 2. Fusion of identity plus ideology plus technology. Often the ordinary person builds a story. I am someone who resists injustice. Technology plays a role. Video games, social media memes, online echo chambers, 3D printing, viral messaging, Robinson's bullet casings with meme-like engravings, Mangione's tech background enabling ghost gun creation, Crook's web searches on shooters. These elements fuse personal identity, I'm smart, I'm special, with ideology, I fight injustice, and technical means, I can plan and build. The result, a potent mix of motive plus means. 3. A rupture in personal life, threshold crossing. Often there is some push in the background, chronic pain, alienation, job dissatisfaction, Mangione, withdrawal from social networks, Crooks, identity change and political radicalization, Robinson. These create psychological vulnerabilities. When combined with access to weapons or planning time, they become dangerous. The jump from thought to action happens when the person decides, I will do it. 4. Access to weaponry and planning. Having the means simplifies enactment. In these stories, rooftop rifle, ghost gun, sniper vantage, the planning phase matters. Many violent offenders have thought about it for some time. Here the planning is short or long but present. The crucial point is the decision to designate a target and implement the plan. 5. The radical act as self-realization. Psychologically, for some, the act becomes a declaration. I matter. I have power. I can strike back when people feel invisible, powerless, or betrayed by society. The act of violence becomes a way to assert significance. These individuals may narratively frame themselves as avengers, martyrs, rebels. They leap from ideation to action when the cost-benefit in their mind flips. The risk of being caught is worth the message they think they'll send. 6. Lack of prior criminal history does not imply safety. Often we assume someone without violent record is safe. But these cases show that hidden grievances, online radicalization, unobserved planning, and weapon access can subvert such assumptions. The transition from nonviolent to violent can be quick if multiple elements align. 7. The role of environment and narrative contagion. In a media-saturated world, violence can become a script. The aspiring offender watches stories of heroes, or anti-heroes, finds an ideological justification, and imagines themselves in that role. For Robinson, the language of gaming and memes; for Mangione, the narrative of corporate injustice; for Crooks, the apparently political target, and even the search of previous shooters. These narratives normalize violence in some subcommunities. 8. Prevention implications. From a psychological standpoint, such transitions suggest that interventions must focus not only on known violent actors or extremist groups, but on the so-called lone actor with no prior record, especially if they show increasing grievance, fascination with violence, acquiring weapons, planning behavior, withdrawal, ideological fixation. While prediction is extremely difficult, awareness of the tripwire factors can help. In closing, what do these 3 stories tell us as a broader lesson? They show us that ordinary people with no prior violent history can commit lethal acts when personal vulnerabilities, ideological grievances, and means come together. The idea of she had no record so must be safe is dangerously incomplete. As individuals feel more alienated, more victimized by systemic forces, technology gives them tools and narrative frames to act. The transition to violence is often sudden, but built on a longer subterranean process of planning, ideation, self-justification. For society and for mental health/violence prevention fields, the challenge is enormous. How to identify when someone crosses from thinking about violence to planning violence, how to intervene, how to restrict means, how to build resilience and alternative narratives. If you're watching this and thinking, someone I know seems to be changing, becoming obsessed, acting out, acquiring weapons, don't wait until it's too late. Talk, engage, get help. Because violence rarely comes out of nowhere. It builds in shadows, And these stories remind us we need to try to bring the shadows into the light. Which of these three incidents resonated with you the most on a personal level? And when it comes to the two cases still awaiting trial, what kind of outcome do you hope to see? Check out the links in the description below where we initially covered each of the cases in detail.